I think there are storm clouds ahead in the meat industry because there are messianic zealots out there. Western countries are moving on from their view of what is the place of meat. Okay, when I emigrated to Canada in 1973, Dominion Stores was the #1 retailer in Canada. People went there mainly because of the meat, and they had a bloody annoying jingle which they played every 5 minutes of the day on every media, which was mainly because of the meat, da-da-da-da. And what it meant was mainly because of the beef. And people selected the supermarkets on the basis of their perception of the quality and the relative value of the beef and other meats. And they'd select, and then buy the rest of the groceries from the same place. Dominion, by the way, went tits up. Okay. If we went into the 1990s, the American Cattlemen's Association had a hugely successful promotion for beef, which had the strapline, "Beef, it's what's for dinner." And that came from, "Mum, what's for dinner?" "It's beef." And, the family would all smile, it's beef, yay, it's beef. And I'm saying, it's wonderfully old-fashioned, isn't it, now? If you say, "What's for dinner?" people don't say beef. Say Chinese, pizza, Italian, takeaway. And then, really importantly, for this sort of pesky group of millennials, so anybody between the age of 20 or 32, they're way more likely to say, "Dinner? What's dinner?" We don't have dinner. We eat when we fancy eating. It's mini meals. It's a succession of snacks which can be healthy. They don't have to be unhealthy. But dinner, sitting down together, Jesus, come on. I don't think so. And so what are we seeing? In my professional lifetime, I've never seen such a lot of movement in plant-based proteins, and I think they're having a moment and it will grow. Here we've got Impossible Foods with its the Impossible Cheeseburger here, which is pea protein based. It's backed by Bill and Melinda and Li Ka-shing out of Hong Kong and China. And what's more, General Mills, one of big foods companies of the world, has bought into it. What about Beyond Meat, the Beyond Burger, a very similar product which is now available in Whole Foods, and I think it's indicative that Tyson has taken a 5% stake in Beyond Meat. You see, big meat companies around the world are starting to say, hang on, there's real traction in plant-based protein, we better have a bite of that. We're in the protein business, we have to define our business much more widely than we have in the past, I would suggest. If I look at corn, which is well known in Europe and North America, I don't know if it's so well known here. Do you know corn? Yeah. Yeah? It's a mycoprotein. You ferment it, if you will. It's particularly focused at chicken-like products. It was bought by Mondenissen out of the Philippines last year for close to $1 billion. They believe it has potential in Asia. So nothing to do with meat, but they're so bloody cheeky. This is in my market. Chicken fillets. Meat-free. How can you have meat-free chicken fillets? Or Swedish-style meatballs, and then above it, meat-free. It's a little cheeky on labeling. I don't think they're going to be and we're seeing, certainly in Europe, but I think it's the same in Australia too, this sort of flexitarian approach to a diet. It's not really a diet. So what's a flexitarian? It's, well, look, I put my hand up, I'm a vegetarian. Well, every other Thursday I am. And then I don't count bacon anyway. I think you've got to put bacon somewhere else. Yeah, so it's where you elect to have a main meal which doesn't have meat as the protein element, that it's some other sort of protein. And it's going like wildfire. So it's called a flexitarian. Here's Flexilicious sausages, well-branded, Debbie and Andrews, and it's like half meat, half vegetable, stroke pulses. I've been talking a lot about this. If you eat them, you wouldn't know. You would not know. But you may feel a little better because these are sort of stealth vegetables for mums. Yeah, how can I get them into the kids? They're very effective, very effective. In eggs, It's pea protein. Here's a wonderful story here, which is Unilever own Hellmann's mayonnaise brand. It's the biggest mayonnaise brand in the world. Hampton Creek, US based, but selling now across the world, produced something called Just Mayo, which is pea protein amongst other things. I can't tell the difference between that and regular mayo. No eggs in it. And Unilever said, you can't call something mayo if it hasn't got eggs in, by definition. We're going to take you to court. And 2 months later, they withdrew that suit, and a year later, they launched their own product with no eggs, calling it mayo. Do you think it's got some traction? I would think so. You know, when you see the Danone is number 2 to Nestle in terms of the dairy company around the world. They've just shelled out $10.5 billion to buy White Wave Foods, which is Alpro almond milk, soy milk, coconut milk, oat milk, etc. There's something going on out there, and it's about plant protein. Protein milk, so protein suddenly has expanded. People want more protein, but they're saying, but we don't want it all meat. We eat plenty meat. We might want to eat less meat. You know, for Christ's sake, Mars protein. You know, you put protein on and it reduces guilt. You know, you don't say I fancy a Mars protein. You think, I think I'll have a protein break. And what about, I don't know, what about insects? Will they have their day? There are certainly plenty of products out there now for consumers. Here's chirps, cricket-based high-protein chips. But I mean, going quickly through this, I would bet over the next 10 years there'll be huge growth in insect protein, and it will be going most likely to feed chicken and fish. I think it's much more palatable, if you'll pardon the pun, humans still struggle a little bit with insects, or some do, not necessarily in Asia. But even in Thailand, you can see actually consumption of insects, stir-fried insects, going down, where it's a beer snack. But why? Because they're buying more Lay's potato chips. You know, it's not. Funnily enough, in Manhattan, it's become fashionable to eat insects. You know, it's an odd world. There we go. So, and the other thing is, if you're in the meat industry, you have to look at this and wonder what's going on and will it have any effect. Here's the Dutch aren't stupid, for God's sake. And their health authorities are saying you should eat about half a kilo of meat per week. That's 26 kilos per year. And you're eating 110.
No, 200.
A lot.
Yeah.
A lot. And so I'm saying it's 460 grams per week, not 460 grams for dinner, which is what you get here. Agency urges, this is all within the last few months, French to cut meat intake in revised, what are they saying? The processed meat shouldn't exceed 25 grams per day. What? Beef, pork and lamb should not exceed 500 grams per week. So they're back to that half kilo. Doesn't include bacon, so we're all right. But what's my point here? That, this is drip, drip on the stone. And what's it based on? Concern about health and concern about the environment. And whether that's right or wrong doesn't matter. It's just happening. Danish Council on Ethics, this is September last year, beef is climate-damaging food. I think that's largely horseshit, but that's at the high level. Most British adults report that the effects of climate change would encourage them to change their diet. That means eat less meat. Be quite clear. And then this one just came 2 days ago. I mean, I'm calling... The environment minister in Germany said that she bans meat at official functions. I mean, she's clearly barking mad. But there she is with Merkel. You can see Merkel saying, that woman's barking mad. But look, there's a lot of it about, and it will have an effect. It is having an effect. Because, hang on, yeah, so I'm just going to talk now more about mature countries. Here we go. And where meat consumption is dropping. Ian, I was just talking about with the guys. I think you've got to look, but let's go back to demography. This is the UK, but it could be anywhere in Northern Europe, and increasingly it's the same in Australia. So what have we got here? That of all the meals eaten last year in the UK, all the meals, 40% of them were eaten by one person alone. 78% were eaten by one person alone or by two people. So what? How might that affect your industry? If like 40% of people are eating a meal by themselves, doesn't mean they're from, they could be in a much bigger family, but when they have a meal, they eat it by themselves. Just think about it for your products. It's way more likely to be highly convenient. They're probably more likely to eat out. You don't go home and say, I think I'll make myself a good, sensible stew. I will now invest 2 hours. No, doesn't happen. And as I was saying earlier to another group, in many developed countries, at least a quarter, often a third of households are one person. A third of households are two people, and a third of households are three people or more. Think about that, the implications it has for your industry. And I see it every day. So here I am in Holland, in Albert Heijn, which is Ahold, and buy my eggs, and there's 7 in a pack. Yeah, it's one a day. 40% of households in Amsterdam are one person. That's your eggs for the week. And so how are we starting to see protein presented at retail? And I'll just show you you've seen this in Australia, and let's go on the journey together. So I'll pop into a Tesco or Marks and Sparks and what have you. Gone are the days where the meat department would be beef, pork, lamb, chicken, where people would say, remember, what's for Thursday night? Beef. We'll go to the beef section. Doesn't happen in many places now. So there'll be a big meat case. They probably expanded the meat case. There'll be 40 different protein offers, fish, beef, pork, etc. And in this particular case, the offer to me is pick 3, David, for £10 for $16. Okay? And so that solves for me Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. There's 2 of us at home when I'm home. And in this particular case, I thought, we'll have salmon, and then we'll have that chicken fillet stuff, which has been marinated, and then a steak burger on the Thursday. Okay, so that's £1.66 per person per meal. So that's $2.50 ochre per person per meal. And it's sort of ready to go, if you will. Now, do you think that's a good deal? That's not a bad deal, we would suggest. That it's about the meal solution, not about the meal problem. And then the next step, which you've got here, but this sort of dominates now. It's the stir-fry meal deal. Okay, it's the protein plus the fresh noodles plus the fresh veggies plus the sauce for £7. So that's £3.50 a head. So that's, say, $5. So the offer there is saying to dinner, you cook it, it's going to take you 10 minutes, and it's $5 a head. Is that a good deal? And in my market, we view that's a good deal. That's a good deal. If we eat out, then suddenly it's just, and everything's the meal. So lunch is the same. Now, the issue here is, for your products, is do they fit into the meal deal? Because if they don't, they won't be on offer. You've got to fit them into the meal deal. And what I've seen with these stir-fry meal deals is, for example, fish suddenly it's always there. And it's salmon. Salmon. It's become a real competitor. And here, if you look down Tesco or Marks & Spencer, if you look down the ready meal aisle, it just mimics the decision that you and I would take if we were in London together. Don't panic. So, do you fancy eating out tonight? Yeah. What do you fancy? Chinese. So you say, what do you fancy? Chinese. Okay, great. And then I'll say, what sort of Chinese? And actually, Szechuan. Let's say we'll have Szechuan because you want something a little spicy. And then you might, so you look down the aisle and say, we'll have Chinese. Get to the Chinese section. We'll have Szechuan. And then you might look at the protein. Will we have like a prawn Szechuan, or shall we have a pork one, or what? And meat industry finds this threatening, because it's not, let's have beef. And then you're into, essentially, it's just the restaurant offer. So this is in Tesco. They even call it Menu C. They've got, Oriental Kitchen, meal for two, menu A, B, C, D. And it's, how much is it? I thought I'd got the price on it. But again, it's nothing. It's tuppence. Oh, here we go. Indian meal for two. Indian favourite menu, pila rice, chicken korma, chicken tikka masala, 2 naan breads, 4 onion bhajis. That's a big meal for two. And it's just over $4 US a crack. We view that as being, just pick it up and go. Is it good quality food? It's good quality food. And so it goes on, etc. Taste Singapore, slow cooked beef rendang for two, whatever it might be. And then for us, it's fabulous value. Here I am at my local little supermarket, and they will have on a Friday, it will be, say, Spanish weekend. And so they'll have 15 tapas. We select 4 tapas plus a bottle of wine for $14. So it's prosciutto de Parma, chorizo and cheese empanadas, the olives and feta, and pork and beef meatball. It's really nice. Why would you go out? That's Friday night. You've got to, Jesus, you've got to get in the bloody car. What about, I fancy a drink, but I can't drive. Jesus, it's, and all these people, no, just stay home. This ripped share of stomach from the restaurants. They're coming back. And, we just get more. Now, you're getting, if you look at what Woolies have been doing with their joint venture with, well, I've forgotten, Beacon Johnson, for example. I mean, they've upped the offer here substantially. And to be fair, Hurdy's been doing ready meals since time immemorial, but but doing it in the back of the shop. And is it just in high income countries? No. One of the best supermarket chains in Thailand is Tops. I love to go there, and they're into it. Kitchen delivery, Tops. What have we got? Riceberry rice and with spicy salmon. 160 baht. That's expensive. That's $5. That's expensive in Thailand. But they get down to the Japanese curry rice with fried chicken, 55. That's $1.50. Yeah, it's cheap. And so back to, do I see this having opportunities back to China? It's already there at a very small level. I see the products. Actually, I can't remember where I bought that. I bought it in Thailand, but it's more Chinese. And here I'm in China with the rib-eye steak set meal. I mean, is that a big market there? I doubt it. But, will it grow? I bet it does grow. Okay, so this is a little bit sort of exotic, but I'm starting to, and excuse me, English, well, I'm Welsh actually, but, I'm an English speaker, as you might have guessed. I'm saying, how do you like your meat? So what's all this about? Now, we've got Mr. Harvey here, so I know you won't think it's offensive, but what, because it's not you. This is not you. But what amuses me about particularly the red meat industry is that, and I do lots of work in the red meat industry, that I'll go up and say, what business are you going to go? Beef. I mean beef. And that's normally by men who run the beef industry, and they're big men. And they have no necks, and large hands, and red faces, and they bellow a lot. And they increasingly look like the animals they slaughter. And they say, what's your business? Beef. I mean beef. Well, my view is, there may be a margin in beef, in the noun, but I think the exciting area is in the adjectives. And so it's what sort of beef? Free range, grass-fed, Mount Barker, Cape Grim, Wagyu, rare breed, slow-grown, omega-3 rich, organic, new season, happy. Have you got my point? It's to work out what are those adjectives that consumers value and are willing to pay more for. And I think that's where the rich vein of margin is, not in beef. No, that's the commodity. You've got to move on from that. And I mean, my best example was a chicken here I'm from Wales, remember. here's chicken in Marks and Spencer's that sells for Oz $30 a kilo. Let's see how many adjectives we can find here. It's British, that's an adjective. Free range, okay. From Pembrokeshire, which is in Wales. Corn-fed, there's another one. Produced by the Scale family, who's like the Hughes family. In a national park, for Christ's sake. They're free to roam and forage on clover rich in wild flowers. See what I mean? And it's work. This may seem fanciful, but people, no, I want great chicken. I want it great tasting, etc. But I'm willing to pay for the story for some meals. And I'm saying, look, in Australia, in the last 5 years, 8 years, I've seen such growth in branding of beef. Go back 10 years ago, there's bugger all, really. And the big guys are into it. And fair play, doing a half-decent job. But if you allow me, I think Cape Grim does a fabulous job.
Very good marketing.
Yeah, they do. It's Cape Grim out of Tasmania. It's a great story. It's a family-owned business type. Greenhams. I mean, and if I go into it's both in Australia, in Singapore, and you see, how much premium do they get? A lot. They're about adjectives, and they're bloody good at it. And there we go. It's and it's look. It's the other day I was talking to the second largest salmon company in the world, which is in Norway. Both of them are in Norway. It's Marine Harvest, and this one's called Leroy. And I was just in the supermarket just opposite there. And I mean, I don't speak Norwegian, but that's Norwegian lamb. And I can tell you, somewhere in there's a lot of adjectives. It's about the story. It's about the story. So it depends on the market. Not everybody's going to pay for adjectives, but some will. And is it look, here I'm in Thailand again, free range, all natural, herb fed. This is in Thailand. Is it only for rich people? No, it's not. I've stuck this in because, and it's actually out of sync, because the huge growth in the last 2 years for me in the meat industry has been the late attempt by meat industry folk to get into snacks. You've seen this sort of huge expansion of snacks, as I mentioned, mini meal snacks, etc. And meat protein was slow. These just some recent British ones are just for fun. Men's Health Fuel beef jerky, British turkey jerky, salami, gruntled pork crackling, fire and then the one on the right I love. It's jerky for women, beef twerky. Brilliant. And it was just so slow. We have been slow to get into this. Okay, consumer trends quickly, and I've taken Ahold and Delhaize. They've now combined. Ahold, the great Dutch retailer, but who's also international. Delhaize, Belgian retailer, who's also international. They're now the same company, and I just picked off what they think are the big ones. Increased focus on health and product origin. Looking for convenience across all channels. Quick here. But when people talk about health and well-being, say, yes, I'm going to eat much more healthily, your product will not leave the shelf if it's inconvenient. It could be the most healthiest product in the world. If it's not convenient to buy, prepare, consume, and dispose of, it doesn't go any further. Hands up those who are spiralizing. Oh, well done. And there's no need, and there's no embarrassment, there's no need for counseling or anything like that. I mean, I think, actually, I put it up just to show on convenience. There, you've got these sort of boring traditional vegetables that were going nowhere. You suddenly put into spiralizing form. So courgette rather than courgette, butternut spaghetti, carrot spaghetti, and it's going like wildfire. Here we are with Del Monte, with their vegetable noodles, etc. I was just showing that to Ian's lot, to the grains people, saying it's a little bit threatening if you're into noodles and pasta. Cauli rice, here we are, cauliflower rice, which is huge in North America and in Europe, doing really well. And this is also for the mums, it's also stealth vegetables. The kids just don't know. Can you get them to eat cauliflower? No, we'll eat cauli rice. Well, it's just rice, isn't it? Let's eat it. Other powerful global consumer trends, shoppers continuously seeking value, and that's two things. That's value, they want the best deal, and value with values. That it doesn't, around the world, people say, well, who produced it? How did they do it? Did they mistreat the workers, the animals, etc.? And then increasingly too, people say, and I want a diet for me, because I'm particularly special and I have very particular requirements. So design it for me. I was going to do something just quickly on retail, and it was just to make the point here that, I mean, I wouldn't have guessed this 10 years ago. Okay, if you look at how does the market value retailers? Amazon, 400 billion. Take that one, and then let's move to Tesco, which became the number 2 global retailer for a short period. Its market cap 17. 17 is hardly starting. And so look at the guys at the top, Amazon and Alibaba, just above Walmart, with all Walmart's enormous economic clout. Costco just roaring up, and then these big traditional, let's call them traditional retailers, just nowhere. And it's to make my point that in many markets, particularly developed Western-style markets, that the power of traditional supermarkets, we can call them that now, has clearly peaked, particularly in the traditional supermarket format. So in my market, in the UK, if we take, it's saying, what's going to happen over the next 4 years or whatever it is, 5 years? Hypermarkets, no growth. Supermarkets, no growth. The growth is going to be in convenience, discounters. Of course, you haven't heard of discounters in Australia. I mean, Aldi has no impact on the Australian market. Huge impact. Online, and so it's about convenience, discounters, and online in my market at the moment. That's a bit too. And as I say, Alibaba, the emergence of that suddenly, there it is, selling more. Bigger revenues than Walmart's. It's sort of astonishing. And you can see what that's done to the Walmarts of this world. They're saying, Jesus, if we don't have an online offer here, we're sunk. And that's why they shelled out 10 years ago, $1 billion really meant something. And now it's just so it's $1 billion. It's only $1 billion. Oh, okay, that's okay then. It's only 1,000 million. Fine. And so, and again, in my market, this is, it's not as well developed as Korea or China for that matter, but in terms of Western markets, in online grocery, it is, it's 7-8%, something like that now of grocery. And here we are. This is Kevin, who delivers every Sunday night to my son in Wimbledon. And he comes with, count the bags, something like 7 bags every Sunday night, and he drops them. They allow him in, he drops them by the fridge. That's $240 worth of groceries every week. And then my daughter-in-law, Claire, looks at me because she considers me a bit iffy and says, this family doesn't work without Kevin. If Kevin doesn't turn up on a Sunday night, we're buggered. Does that mean they don't like to shop? They love to shop. And they shop at the weekend with the kids for stuff which is story food. Where the kids can have a roll and whatever. They love it. But for basic stuff, and it's really interesting in Australia, because if I ask an audience, if I say, would you allow Woolies or Coles to select your meat and fruit and veggies? There's normally an immediate, because they assume I'm making a little joke. Because they no. Of course I wouldn't let Woolies or Coles select my meat. Why not? Well, because I can't trust them. If I ask Blake, will you allow Sainsbury's to select your meat? He looks at me and said, well, isn't that what they do, Dad? Isn't that their job? Well, what if they put a bad piece in? Well, then I'd leave them. Why would they want to lose $250 every week? I mean, they've completely got me captured. We can't do without them. But if they don't give me what we want, we'll leave them. And that's why, it's never going to be online. In my market, fresh is online. So 11% of Brits shelve supermarkets for solely online shopping. They tend to be millennials. And this is more recent stuff. I was just looking at Which fresh and chilled subcategories perform the strongest online? And it's not a good slide here, but what have we got? Fresh fish grew by 12.5%, poultry by 7%, whole head produce by 9%. So, we don't see online as being dry groceries or detergents. We see it's everything. We see it as everything. And then what about in China? 2016, fresh e-commerce penetration by shopper and by value, and that tells you that dry foods has got the highest proportion, but actually meat, seafood, 8%, it's holding its own. Sinsin doesn't have any difficulty ordering online. Fresh stuff. And what we're seeing, the trick here, it's just wonderful, really. When I was like a proper professor, I was Sainsbury professor of food business at the University of London. And the chairman of Sainsbury picked up my salary and my secretary salary. And Sainsbury's was established back in 1870s something. And that's how they used to deliver back in the late 19th century, early 20th century. This is what they're moving to now. There's been a complete round, and here Sainsbury's have do this, get up to 20 items from Sainsbury's, and it's delivered in 60 minutes. So it's only for small orders, this. I mean, they do a full order, but it's, order 20 items and it'll be with you in 60 minutes. It's just like it used to be. I don't really have the time to tell the story, but like my mum in 1953 when I was 5, and she was a teacher, and so she didn't have time during the week, so she'd pop me on the back of the bike, and we'd go down to the local village, which is about 3 kilometres away, and Mr. Barnes, the grocer, would see her coming at 100 paces, and he'd have a cup of tea for her, and she'd sup it, and they'd exchange gossip about the school and about what was happening in the village, and then Mr. Barnes used to say, "Same order as last week, Mrs. Hughes?" And my mum would say, "Yes, please, John." And 3 hours later, a small boy on a bike would deliver the groceries. We didn't think that was odd. Why would we think it odd now? Just happening now. And so everybody's trying to work out how can we make this work financially. And so you're seeing UPS on these, all these sort of, it's terrific, isn't it? But I mean, I think from a meat industry point of view too, you've got to say, there's so many now increasing routes to the consumer. It used to be like export or to the supermarkets and traditional butchers. If you look at ingredient and meal delivery in the US, or indeed in Australia or in the UK, and I just picked up here Blue Apron, HelloFresh, plated purple carrot. These are where people are buying a box of ingredients, which includes meat, because they like cooking, but they haven't time to shop, and then they just put the meal together themselves. It's just sort of rocketing along. Ordered a meal ingredient kit online for home delivery from a service like so millennial shoppers, like 60%, 6 out of 10 are saying, well, sure, of course we do. That's in the US. Is that relevant elsewhere? I'm not quite sure. Moving on. And so when you know something has got some traction, it's when retailers copy it. So here's Tesco and Waitrose in my market saying, those bastards, those ingredient kit people are just getting up our nose. They're starting to chisel away at our slow, low growth retail market. So now they offer recipe boxes. So again, is my product in a form that can go into that box? I would suggest. You have this, in fact, I'm not sure if it's from the US or from Australia, but Uber Eats. Do we have Uber Eats here? Yeah. It's going pretty well. I mean, Deliveroo, you probably think it's Australian. It's not Australian. Yeah, it's a Brit company. And how much money has been pumped into that in the last 3 years? It's frightening. I think something like 400 million has gone into it. It's in like 20 countries. In China, the Chinese think it's Chinese. You guys think it's Australian. Deliveroo. So this is restaurants coming back at supermarkets. Supermarkets sort of had at them with ready meals, etc., and home delivery. And now the restaurants are saying, well, now we've got Uber Eats, now we've got Deliveroo. MealPal Here's another one. Just again, just watching what's happening out there. Raises 15 million in venture capital, expands into that. It's a lunch subscription startup. So what this lady does is, in the US, to say, right, here's 20 restaurants, here's the key meals. Order your lunch through this, but it's on a subscription basis, and we will deliver you savings and great convenience. So I mean, again, you can see how supermarkets are thinking, bugger. I mean, that's another way they can go around supermarkets. They hate it. They need growth. Those big supermarkets need growth, or they fall over. It's like if you're on a bike and stop. You need forward momentum. They just go, whoa, and they're going to get more and more of that. And this is just going one step further, is the sharing. This is Airbnb, but for meals. So it's people in your, let's say in Cottesloe, there'll be somebody saying, you know, I really like cooking. I wouldn't mind cooking for some Cottesloe residents. So they put up their own little website, or through Tribe in the UK, and a local person delivers you a meal. They made it in their house for you. It's the sharing economy. You know, but you know, long enough we've sold meat by post. That's Donald Russell in the UK has been doing it for years and years and years and years. I'm almost done here. I'm just saying, look, is all this stuff on retail, is it just sort of UK, European, North American crap? Well, it is different in Asia, and it is because supermarket development is at a different stage. But what's here is just saying, who do you think has done well in Asia in terms of big-time grocery retail over the last few years? And the answer is, no surprise, it's not Walmart, it's not Tesco, it's not those big would-be global retailers, it's regional retailers. Now, why would we be... Of course we're not surprised at that, because they know the customer better. You know, Tesco is sort of hopeless in China. You know, often it's not, you know, they send somebody from Manchester to run the business. I mean, what's that about? So if you look, Family Mart, Dairy Farm, RT Mart, Aeon Retail, you know, those are all strong regional retailers. Who did poorly? Well, Walmart, Big C, which is Casino, Carrefour. Not performers. Didn't know consumers well enough. And actually, you know, there we go. That's my lot. I ran out of stuff. I've got lots more to say, but... Look, thanks for coming. I know I'm not everybody's cup of tea, but it's kind of you to put some time up this afternoon. I've enjoyed talking to you.